All right, so we want to isolate the radical, and to do that, we would divide both sides by 4. All right. Now, this one over here, like we can't isolate that radical. That 3 is just going to have to be on the outside, and it's okay. We'll just leave it there. But on the step where we square both sides, we have to be really careful with that 3. So on the left, the square is just going to get rid of the square root. But on the right, since that 3 isn't under a square root, we actually have to square it and get 9. And then when we square the square root of q, that's just going to be q. It's just a little tricky right at the beginning. And then after that, it's just normal. We'll go ahead and get our q's together by subtracting 3q. All right, and then this one works out kind of weird. We would divide by 6, and this one doesn't go evenly, but we can reduce. So we'll reduce both of those by 3. So it's going to reduce to 5 halves is what q probably is, but we need to check to make sure. Oops, put the wrong thing. All right, so we get that ugly decimal. Jot it down real quick. All right, and we get the same ugly decimal again, so that means it's a solution. All right, let's look at the next one, or let's look at the next odd one. Let's look at 13. So this one, we're going to go ahead and square both sides. So when we square that square root, it's just 8x. It's going to equal x squared. And this is where it starts getting a little more challenging. So this is a quadratic equation that we're going to solve by factoring. So all of the 13 through 18, you do have to factor each of those. In your first step, when you're solving by factoring, is get everything on one side. So I am going to move the 8x over with the x squared. All right, now this one is different than most of the factoring that's on the worksheet. They are going to be ones where you use the yellow sheet and you factor the trinomials. This one we're going to factor out a common factor. What is the common factor between between x squared and 8x? What do they have in common? They both have an x. So we're going to factor out an x. So you just put it outside the parentheses and you divide an x out of each term. All right, then you're going to set each factor equal to 0 and then solve for x. So this one is done. X is going to equal 0. What do I need to do on this one to solve it? Just add 8. Good. So x equals 8. I shouldn't have put a box around that. We need to check it before we know for sure if they're answers. Now on these that there's 2 answers, it's possible that they're both answers, or one of them could be extraneous and the other one works, or they both could not work. So we still need to check with the original problem. This one we can kind of check in our head, I think. 8 times 0 is 0. Is the square root of 0 0? Yes. So 0 is good. All right, 8 times 8 is 64. And the square root of 64 is 8. So they both check out. Now, several people in my 4th period made the same mistake on number 14. So I wanted to talk to you about it before. You're going to finish it on your own. But if you were going to do number 14, what would you do first? Subtract the 7a. A lot of people started off on that one and squared it and it messed it all up. So that's the first thing you're going to do is subtract an 8a minus 7a is a, and then work it from there. I'll let you guys do that one on your own. Okay, number 15 it's a lot. You can do it, but it's a lot. Okay, so we want to get rid of this square root, and there's nothing outside of the square root, so we'll go ahead and square both sides. So the left side is fine. Like the left side, the square just gets rid of the square root. But on the right side, you have to square that as a quantity. So what does it mean to square something? Like if you're squaring 5, you would multiply it by itself. Yes. So this is the same thing. You have to multiply m minus 5 times itself. So that makes these problems a lot. It's like there's a problem inside of a problem. Okay, so whenever I'm squaring that m minus 5, I'm going to have to distribute the m. So multiply m by each of those, so it would be m squared minus 5m. And then I'd have to distribute the negative 5. So negative 5m plus 25. Now, hopefully at this point in Algebra 2, you've done enough of these types of problems so that doesn't feel super overwhelming to you, I hope. We've done a lot like that throughout this year. Okay. So now what we need to do is get everything on one side. So I'm going to move the 6m over. Since it's a positive 6m, I'm going to subtract it from itself, so it becomes 0. And then I'm going to subtract it from the negative 10m, subtract it from its like terms. What are we going to do with the 38? Add it or subtract it? What do y'all think? Add it or subtract the 38? Add. So we add it to itself, so it becomes 0, and we add it to the like terms. All right, and then this is just a good old factoring, a trinomial, where we do our two sets of parentheses. And you might be running out of room. These boxes are kind of small. We do the two sets of parentheses. What we put here and here needs to give you m squared. So that has to be m and m. Okay, if this is a plus, do you guys remember what that tells you about these two? It means they're the same sign. And not side, sorry, same sign. And they're going to be whatever this one is. So this plus tells you they're the same, and then the minus tells you they're both subtraction signs. Right, and then this is where this yellow paper comes in handy. We're looking for numbers and that multiply to get 63. So you look in the 63 box that are going to add to give you 16. And there's not too many numbers in that box. So what do y'all think? Yeah, 9 and 7. All right, and then let's see if I can squeeze it in here. We're going to set each one of those equal to 0. And we get 9. And we get 7. But we still need to check to make sure that they work. Oh, don't really have a lot of room. All right, so that's going to give me 4. And then I can do 9 minus 5 in my head. You get 4 equals 4. So that's right. All right, and then we'll check 7. All right, and then I get 2 equals 2, so that's good. So this one has 2 answers. And like I said, sometimes when you have 2 answers, they both work. Sometimes one works and sometimes none works. No, it's just that one solution. Okay, I have to change my number 18. I think yours is already changed, but I haven't done it on here yet. Okay, now this one is almost identical to the one we just did. So we would go ahead and square both sides. On the left, no big deal. The square just gets rid of the square root. On the right, we actually need to multiply 6 plus, not 6, c plus 4 times c plus 4. And then we want to get everything on one side. So I'm going to subtract 6c from itself and like term. Subtract 15 from itself and its like terms. And then we're going to factor this one. So it's going to be C and C. And then again, this tells you the signs are the same, and this tells you they're both plus signs. And this one works out kind of nice because there's only two things that multiply to give you 1. What are they? 1 and 1. And they add to give you 2, so that has to be it. And then there's really no need to set both of these equal to 0 because they're both going to give you the same answer, which is -1. So maybe it's -1, maybe it's nothing. Okay, that's going to be square root of 9 equals 3, which is true. So it all works out. All right, so you guys have 4. If you finished all of them yesterday, you should have 4 that you need to do today. I went ahead and put the answers. You have to show work that makes sense to get credit for them. But I'll help you if you get stuck on something. Just let me know.